Mike Haas along with Mickey Loomis, Executive Vice President and General Manager. And we talked at the start of the season and now 7 games in. And let's get the obvious out of the way. Of course, 1-6 is not what you wanted. It's not acceptable. It is a given as we move forward past that. No, it's not where you wanted to be. Given that, because we haven't had a chance to talk to you much, what is kind of your assessment of what you've seen out there?
Well, first of all, it's hard to get by the record, right? Particularly if you're a fan of the team and you have a lot of passion about your club, then being 1-6 isn't very much fun. It's not very much fun for us either. And I would say, hey, we didn't expect to be 1-6, but we also recognize that in a lot of ways this was going to be a development year. Playing a lot of young players. We got a new coaching staff, trying to identify and develop a quarterback. And so there's been a lot of good things, but it's hard to look past the results, like I said, especially if you're a fan of the New Orleans Saints.
And I guess that's kind of what I hear, is that what fans want to hear is that you feel right players in the building, right coach in the building, and things are going in the right direction, irrespective of the record.
Yeah, I definitely think the right coach is in the building. Absolutely. I love the staff. I love the things that they do behind the scenes. I love the deep thinking, the intelligence of the group. I love the way that they're approaching each week. Look, we're trying to get better incrementally and not take steps back. I like the development of a lot of young players. And sometimes, just because someone's been here for a couple of years doesn't mean they're not a young player. They're still developing. Guys like Chris Olave, who is coming into year 4, Rashid Shaheed, those guys are still improving every year. And both those guys were hurt and missed a large portion of last year. So they were a little bit behind in that regard. But the young players, the draft picks, I think they are what we expected and even more in a lot of ways. And so I think there are a lot of positive things.
It just feels like it was destined that you were not going to get to see a lot of your starting offensive line from what you had in training camp. I mean, you had the one game in Buffalo for a half before Caesar got hurt, and then, man, so tough for Eric McCoy. And I don't think people, they understand, but you can hear it in Kellen, and you can hear it just from offensive guys, the importance of the communication that the center has of the offense.
Yeah, you're right. Over the years, typically you can count on your offensive line remaining pretty intact throughout a season. They become the basis for your entire offense, and in a lot of ways. And I don't know that I've experienced this many injuries in the offensive line as we have the last 2 years. Don't know that there's a particular reason for it, but it's happened. And for Eric, I feel really, really bad for him. He's one of the top 2 or 3 centers in our league. He does everything the right way, and so for him to get hurt, that's difficult. Obviously, difficult on him, difficult on our team. But I know this: he'll bounce back from it. He'll get that repaired, and he'll be as good a player as ever afterwards.
Similar situation with Kendre Miller, who was not an injury situational problem in college at TCU. And I did have the knee where he missed the national championship game. But other than that, it was a game here, 2 games there. I mean, he was not an injury situation. He just can't catch a break.
Yeah. Look, Kendre was doing a fantastic job. Came into training camp with a little bit different purpose and maturity. I thought he was doing fantastic for us, and we saw on the field a lot of things that we expected when we drafted him, and so it's difficult to see him have a setback like this and an injury, but again, he'll bounce back from it and be stronger than ever when he comes back.
For Spencer Rattler, it's tough to, now that we're where it is 7 games in, it's almost on a week-to-week basis. You've seen kind of progress. This game was probably, the Chicago game was, from a turnover standpoint, he'd been so efficient with the football. How do you, when you're looking or grading Spencer, you have to take it all into account, but how do you look at him?
Yeah, I think particularly with quarterbacks, just every every experience is a learning experience, and I think they just have to go through it. And there's growing pains, and you're hoping that you can be good enough in the run game, you can be good enough defensively and in the special teams to win a lot of games, to win games, while you're developing the quarterback and you're waiting on his development. And so that hasn't really happened. That's, the reason for the record. I think Spencer's made a lot of progress. He's done a lot of really good things. And the hardest thing to do in sports is be patient, while your guys are developing, but that's what we have to do. We don't have a choice. I think what you just said is exactly right. He's done a lot of really good things. This last week was probably a step backwards, but I'm anxious to see how he bounces back from that and how we bounce back from it as a team and rally around him.
There's not really a question here. It's just an observation for me because I think it's kind of unusual. Spencer, assuming things stay the same, will play his 15th game on Sunday. It'll be the third game against Tampa Bay. So basically 1 every 5 games he plays Tampa. He's not played Atlanta at all. He's not played Carolina at all. You are the last team to play a division game. You were the last team to play a division game through week 6. It's kind of, it's a little strange. I mean, again, there's not really a question there other than that it's just a little kind of weird.
Yeah, that's a little bit unusual. Look, I think at this point it doesn't really matter who our opponent is. We're trying to develop ourselves and we're trying to get better each week, regardless of who the opponent is. And so, we've got another opportunity this weekend against Tampa, against a good team who's been on a roll the last few years. And it's interesting to see, Baker Mayfield's development. And he's an MVP candidate right now. But he went through his struggles the first few years. I think we've got a lot of examples in our league right now between Baker Mayfield, Daniel Jones, Mac Jones, Sam Darnold, guys that, were high draft picks that struggled at times early on with their original team and, have turned around and overcome all that and found success as they've developed. And it's a good lesson for all of us in our league that most of the time it takes patience and development for these quarterbacks, and they're not instantly successful like Pat Mahomes was and like Jaden Daniels was a year ago. And yeah, it's part of the deal in the NFL.
Talk to Michael Parrington and Kai and Jeff Ireland. I wanted to get your thoughts. Kellen Moore, was he basically like he is now when you interviewed him? I don't know that I've seen a rookie coach come in and be so even-keeled, no highs, no lows, work harder, get better, work harder, get better. Was he kind of like that through the interview process?
Yeah, I think he was. I mean, I don't think he was. I know he was. He's very reflective, very thoughtful in the interview process. I felt like he had pretty good control of his emotions. You get in those interview situations and look, you want the job, you're nervous, and yet I didn't see any of that. It was very much the demeanor that he displays now. And even look, he gets the job, and a month later, the whole injury and the retirement of Derek Carr happens, and that's a big curveball for a new head coach. And yet, boy, he just was really calm demeanor during that period of time. There was no panic about it. Just okay, let's develop our next plan. What do we have in the building? What can we go get? We talked through a lot of scenarios, and I like that about him. He's a problem solver.
And he's a quarterback, right? And so, he's got a lot of people on this staff, but I think the team will feed off of the no panic, right? I mean, they sense that.
Yeah, absolutely they do. And, I think, this is where, the veteran leadership of our team, the guys that have been here and been big contributors over the years and helped us win a lot of games, their demeanor, their attitude, their leadership has been really important. When Alvin comes out and the guys in our team come out and say, look, they understand the struggles we're going through, and that we're trying to win games, and we're developing, and yet this is where they want to be. That I think that's a good message.
I think this show is probably a testament to my next question, in that we spend a lot of time talking about the offense, and yet it's really defensively with Brandon Staley, who is really kind of changing schematics and moving different things around, different pieces around into a scheme and the people that he wants for his defense. And so, it's a growing process there, but we spend always a lot more time talking about the offense than the defense, but there's a lot of growing challenges there as well.
Yeah, there is. And when you change schemes and you change the way you're doing things defensively, every position doesn't have a perfect fit in terms of players. We've got to develop that. We've got to understand that as a personnel department, what our coaches are looking for, and then go and get that for them. And that's not something that happens in 1 year's time. That's going to take a little bit of time. But that being said, I think there's some really exciting things on defense that are happening. The young players that are developing and making plays. The guys up front in the middle of our defense that are adapting and doing some really good things. So I'm pretty optimistic that the defense is going to be a strength of our team in the future.
The youth is there, but Sanker, gets kind of shoved in there. Probably, I think he had one defensive snap in week 1, and then he's been pretty much a starter since week 2. And then the pick in week 4, fumble recovery week 5.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that Julian was hurt in that first game, because I thought he was doing some really good things and providing some really good veteran leadership for us, and some really top flight play. But Jonas has stepped in. He's made some big plays. He's made some young player mistakes at times, but he makes up for it with his athletic ability, his enthusiasm, and I think it's been a big help to have Justin Reed back there next to him, someone that's really smart player, has seen everything that this league has to offer, and can help his development. Our coaches Terry Joseph and Grady Brown and Peter Genta in the back end there. They've got a really young group that they've got to really coach up to the best of their ability, and they've done a great job with those young guys, and that's not an easy task.
Galante and Kool-Aid become the elder statesmen in the quarterback room pretty quickly. Quincy Riley, same thing. I mean, you're going to take your lumps, right? That's kind of unfortunately how you learn in this league, and it's how you respond.
Yeah, that's exactly right, because every corner in our league, every safety in our league is going to get beat, and they have to pick themselves up and go on to the next play and get over the last one. And that sometimes takes a little bit of time, and again, I think our guys back there are doing a really excellent job.
And this is kind of, it used to be when whoever that number 1 pick, if it wasn't an offensive lineman, it would be a daily focus. I mean, we hardly talk about Kelvin Banks and Fuaga, right? I mean, they've just kind of moved in like they have been there for 10 years. I mean, which is a testament to, man, great picks. You must be just thrilled with how those two guys are evolving.
Well, yeah, we're definitely excited about the players. Part of that is just O-line play didn't have a lot of stats that are evident each week. But look, we've watched them develop. We've watched Tally go from left tackle to right tackle over the course. He went from a college right tackle to an NFL left tackle, back to right tackle, and didn't really miss a beat. Excited about him. We were excited about him last year, just as excited about him this year. And Kelvin's come in and done a great job. Part of our evaluation was that he was an absolute great teammate at Texas, and he's been every bit of that here as well. And so we feel really good about those two guys, as well as the rest of our offensive line. As long as we can, keep them on the field and keep them healthy, it'll be a strength of our team.
We've talked about development and evaluation and Tyler Shough. So you just assume to see Spencer keep winning and he keeps the job, but eventually it's a tough situation where you want to see what you got, but you don't want to see what you got. You want to keep things the way they are, because if Spencer's playing, usually means you're winning at this point.
Yeah, look, the things that the fans can't see is the daily practices, the things that happen, each week during practice and obviously during training camp as well. There's a lot of things about Tyler that we really love. I think we've got two great prospects in our building, and we'll see eventually how that shakes out. But it's just about development right now, and I think that's going well.
Trade deadline on November 4th. Michael Parrington's birthday, by the way, is November 2nd. We've had this interview a few times. It's without getting into the nitty gritty. You have 5 picks, if I'm correct, right now as it stands for 26. And if this is a building, I don't like the word rebuilding or whatever, it's a building time for this team. Is it possible to say if you're going to be a big player, little player, don't play? I mean, how do you look at the trade deadline?
Yeah, I don't know that we go in with any particular philosophy about the trade deadline. Here's what happens is that, the teams that aren't doing well, everybody presumes they're sellers. And the teams that are doing well, everyone presumes that they're buyers. And so, we obviously have been the subject of a lot of rumors. And I'm assuming, and we have gotten a few calls about different guys. And look, we'll look at each thing individually. We'll discuss it. But I'm not in the I don't think we're in the business of trading away good players unless the deals are just too good to refuse. Yeah, I think I'll just leave it at that.
Would you like more than 5 picks?
Well, everyone would like more than 5 picks. Absolutely.
Unfortunately, they don't give them away. You have to give something away to get them, right?
We're a long ways away from the draft, and where we pick and how many we have is yet to be determined.
Give me a sense of what your time is like, because you've got, Jeff working the colleges. Man, we're getting close to November. That's really kind of heating up. You're with Michael Parrington and Kai looking at the pro personnel and what trade deadline or just, getting better. And then with Kellen and what's going on with this team right now. How is your time divided?
Yeah, well, there's not enough of it, that's for sure. And it's all of those things and another 100 things too. So everything, every day something comes up that we have to address that has to do with, the current roster or, things that may happen in the future, contracts that we're contemplating, free agency that's going to come up this thing. There's just a lot of things that we're dealing with on a daily basis, and look, we're trying to support our coaching staff and give them every bit of support that we can give them in terms of advance reports, daily information. There's injury issues that we have to deal with, so there's just a lot of things, Mike. It's too hard to just describe a single day because every day is different.
Football's a crazy game. It's a matter of inches. Your thoughts? Have you seen the highlights? How did you watch Denver, the Giants? How did you digest that?
Yeah, it was an unbelievable ending. That fourth quarter, I didn't see all of it. I saw a good portion of it. I'm not surprised that Denver, in the span of 38 seconds, I think, when they received the kickoff, I wasn't shocked that they were able to maneuver themselves into field goal range, because we've seen that with Sean and Drew a couple of times. I think they did it in like 21 seconds or something like that one time. So it's just it's just evidence that any bit of time left on the clock, something can happen that can change the course of a game, and that was wild.
Yeah, it was it was stunning, but it just shows you that it's the NFL. And finally, just your final takeaways from when you watched Tampa and Detroit, since you're playing the Buccaneers next.
Yeah, look, Tampa's been playing so well, and
Baker's
been playing so well, and they've overcome a lot of injuries. I know they had a few more in the game last night, but that's a big challenge. And they're the top dog in our division. They have been for 3 or 4 years now, and it'll be a good challenge for us and a good opportunity to measure ourselves. So I'm looking forward to it.